from the Hill.
Anybody in this country who works 40 hours a week should not be living in poverty.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders there over the weekend pushing his progressive agenda to New Hampshire voters. Peter Ducey is following all of this for us from Washington this morning. What a weekend it was, Peter. Good morning.
And Sandra, Elizabeth Warren doesn't want primary voters to be confused that just because she wants to take control away from big private tech companies like Facebook and Amazon and Apple doesn't mean she is a democratic socialist.
Do we describe you as a capitalist? What's the best way to describe you?
I believe in markets. Markets that work. Markets that have a cop on the beat and have real rules and everybody follows them. I believe in a level playing field.
So if you get labeled as a socialist?
Well, it's just wrong.
Some other candidates are having an even tougher time tapping into the energy on the Democratic Socialist side of the party because the title could suit them, but they're not sure, like John Hickenlooper.
Once you get back into these labels, am I a capitalist? Am I a socialist? How much of a capitalist am I versus how much of a socialist? It becomes kind of silly, doesn't it?
Somebody not struggling with the label, Bernie Sanders, who is back where he won his first primary in 2016, New Hampshire, testing out a 2020 pitch very similar to his last campaign, but unique now because he's doing something that a lot of other Democrats are trying to avoid, and that's talking a lot about Trump.
This campaign is not only going to win the Democratic nomination, this campaign is not only going to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in our lifetimes.
Bernie Sanders now trails only Joe Biden in a new Des Moines Register poll of Iowa primary goers, Iowa caucus goers. Biden has 27, Sanders has 25, everybody else in single digits. Back to you.
Peter Ducey, thank you.
Want to bring in America's A-Team, Bill McGurn, columnist for the Wall Street Journal, Fox News contributor, Josh Holmes, former chief of staff to Senator Mitch McConnell, and Marianne Marsh, former senior advisor to John Kerry. Pretty good panel, Smitty, right? Pretty good on
That's
a
why
Monday.
They're called the A-Team.
Marianne Marsh writes this at FoxNews.com. Socialism is the GOP rallying cry for 2020. Well, guilty as charged?
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. I mean, every Republican from Donald Trump all the way down the line is using that word to try to distract everyday Americans from the reality of their lives. They know the economy's stacked against them. They know that...
Wait, who knows? Who knows the economy's stacked against them?
The vast majority of Americans know that the capitalism, it works. They want capitalism, but they want the capitalism to work for them, and that's why we need to reset the rules. So it does. And so we encourage fair competition. No, Republicans are touting socialism every single day because that's the only way they can try to win this race in 2020. Last point, it is the biggest threat to Republicans in 2020 is the economy. The only bigger threat is Donald Trump.
Yeah, I got some whiplash on that. I'm sorry, Marianne. You know, for a bunch of capitalists, Democrats are sure having a hard time explaining exactly why they're not socialists, right? I mean, one policy after another, from the Green New Deal to Medicare for All to 70% tax rates to virtually everything that we heard at South by Southwest, Elizabeth Warren, AOC. What they're talking about is socialism. I hate to tell you, it's not capitalism. It is socialism. It's a state takeover of the American economy. And politically, I can't figure it out. For 30 years, Bernie Sanders has been on an island all by himself in Democratic and Republican politics. Now he's literally the center of the Democratic Party.
What's interesting to me is red states like Alabama are looking to expand Medicaid. More and more people, the majority of people want Medicare for all. But more importantly here, you need to separate out what Elizabeth Warren wants to do, which is to make Google, Amazon, Facebook, and others competitive and break them up because they're monopolies.
Yeah,
right.
I think we rely on the market to make things competitive. Look, the market, when you break it down, all it is about voluntary transactions. I can buy or sell with whoever I want, right? And all these things get in the way of it. Look, the Democrats are using the word social. I agree that the Republicans are going to talk about this, but it's because it's out in the open now. It's a fair debate.
I would argue,
and we have Venezuela falling apart over this. I mean, at the end of the day, socialism has to rely on force because people, it doesn't work. And then you want to redistribute. Before you can redistribute, you have to take. I mean, it's ridiculous for Elizabeth Warren to say that what she's
for
for
is... The point you're making is that only Republicans are talking about this. Some of the clips we just ran in Peter Ducey's report, that's not Rush Limbaugh.
That's what I mean. They're picking up on the Democrats.
No, they're like two Democrats talking about it, literally. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders. And that does not represent
and all the other
entire
ones are
Democratic
embarrassed
Party.
to say whether they're capitalist or... It's like a trick question
John
now.
Hickenlooper, welcome to the NFL, buddy. I mean, how are you not ready for that question? Come on.
But at its core, whether you call them socialists or not, when you have every candidate endorsing the Green New Deal, that's socialism. You can call it whatever the heck you want, but that's what it is.
No, to do something about climate, to do something about infrastructure.
That's tearing down every building in America.
First of all, when you look, there are no specifics to the Green Deal yet. But when everyone, certainly, we can do better on infrastructure. We can do better on climate. We can do better on transportation. We can do better on jobs. And Americans know, the majority, that they've been whacked under Trump because they're working harder, making less, and every good they need to live every day
I don't think
more
that's true. They're making less.
It's more expensive.
I don't think they're making less.
Trades, all of it.
And look, everything you mentioned, doing better, is by the government. That's state. I mean, whether they're socialists or not, their answer is always the state. It's almost as though the Democrats are completely divorced from the private sector. If you look at their delegates...
Hold on. To be fair, let's get in the words of Elizabeth Warren over the weekend. She was asked about being a Democratic socialist. She said, I am not, and the centrists have to speak to whatever they're doing. What I can say right now is what I'm doing. I can tell you what I believe. She said there is an enormous amount to be gained from markets, that markets create opportunities. So to be fair, she is distancing herself.
She might say that. Do you think Milton Friedman would recognize Elizabeth Warren as a capitalist?
That's fair, too. That's
Everything
fair.
she wants to do is to give
competition.
more... She wants more government control. I mean, it's very clear. What she wants cannot be done without the government asserting more control.
Because, Josh, she went on to say, after making that point, but markets have to have rules. They have to have a cop on the beat. Okay? Markets without rules are theft, she said. And, of course, Wall Street steps back for a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Bill's entirely right. The solution to every problem in the modern Democratic Party today is more government, whether it is health care, whether it is market-based economies, investments, whether it is literally every piece of American government needs to be centralized, and you need to run American life through it. And honestly, that is just so far out of touch with the experience that most Americans are actually having right now. We have a bullish economy. We have more jobs in this country than we have had at any point in our history. I can't figure out for the life of me why these Democratic candidates think running against the American economy that has developed an incredible amount of ability to rise people out of poverty is a good time.
Well, there's this foundation for a great debate. Iowa, we showed this a short time ago. Biden's at 27%, Bernie Sanders at 25%. I think that's probably the pole position for the moment as we start this Democratic race. Two more topics I want to get to. The president wants $8 billion